everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's 2022 Tournament Game 4, where we are playing Nazca. This is turn 35. Let's jump into things. So, right off the bat, we have some research completed. Enchantment 4, which, a turn 35, Enchantment 4. Woo boy, we're behind. Oh shit. Oh, Enchantment 5 should have been like a turn 20 goal type scenario, so we're a little bit behind the curve, but I will say this, you know, I do think we are quite behind the curve, but I also think that there's been a lot of fighting across the board for a lot of nations, right? Like, and not super clean fighting from what I've heard, even for the victors, except for maybe like Vanheim. Vanheim's had some pretty fighting. Like, Pelagia has won in the water, but from what I understood, there was a lot of, like, bloody fighting there, right? Like, the water's pretty red. Meaning that they've, you know, been very focused on push, you know, maybe less research. That being said, I'm pretty sure we're well behind Pelagia. But other nations as well, right? Like, Jotunheim versus Nabaa has been relatively bloody to my understanding. Arcocephale versus Vanarus, relatively bloody to my understanding. And kind of stalematey, right? Like, very kind of like little ground being made. So, I suspect we are the lowest on the research totem pole compared to the people that are still alive or still have a real chance, right? I.e., I think maybe we're ahead of Agartha and Ashdod, and I would assume we're ahead of Yis and Oceania, but maybe by not much. Got a kitty! So that is all just to say that we are trying to get our research back into gear. We are very well behind the curve of where we would prefer to be, but, you know, fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. Anyways, moving right along, we have done a little bit of site searching. We cast Haruspex, and we found a Gateward Valley. And this is not one that I'm super familiar with, so when I first saw this, I was like, Hubba what? But this is actually really interesting. So, site searching Gateward Valley. Ah! I was trying to tab out so I could type this. And let's take a look at this thing. This is interesting. So when I talk about interesting sites, right? Like, this is an interesting site. I do wish that there was a gem type attached to it, right? Because I think that would make it more universally useful. And I do think sites should be somewhat universally useful. But this is odd. What? So it kills undead 10. And what this means is that every undead that enters into this location has a 10% chance of getting hit by a 10 armor negating hits with that rolls an MR check, right? This is actually not good for us. This is actually bad for us. It's not the worst thing in existence, but it is a little annoying and might become a problem later on. Because, right, like, eventually we are going to try to have massive hordes of long dead skeletons and supayas and things like that, which are all undead units, right? So having this directly to the north of our capital, and especially with the terrain around it, right? Like this mountain range preventing us from going up in this direction. This is kind of like a choke point for us. And, I mean, obviously we can still move into it, but we could roll really poorly and lose. Like, if we move, you know, we move a stack of 500 long dead in here, we could lose a pretty big chunk of them, right? So that is unfortunate. It also enables recruitment of centaur chariots, which is really interesting. I like sites that allow you to respawn units or recruit units that you normally wouldn't be able to recruit. This is a really, really interesting mechanic because I think it adds flavor and options to nations that otherwise would not have access to these things. And this is super cool for us. We don't have access to any sort of like tramplers or anything like that, and that's actually relatively value. The downside is we're not really in a position to use these well at the moment. Ow. And this is kind of a shitty province for them to be in, right? And the reason why it's a shitty province for them to be in is because of the relatively low resources. Technically, that's mostly our fault because of the sloth and because we are, you know, kind of stealing resources from this location. But it makes it very difficult, right? Because these are relatively resource heavy, very recruitment point heavy. And it's somewhat difficult for us to actually utilize these. But if we did utilize these, they do take protection buffs very well, right? They have 13 armor, Ringmail Curious, and an Iron Cap, so that's pretty good. And they are size 4, so they can trample, very importantly, they can trample size 3 units, i.e. they can trample Elven Cavalry. And that can be a very big deal. So we'll see how this works out. So as far as like actual site searching goes, this is a little weird, right? Like, we didn't get a gem out of it. We have a site that hurts our undead, which at least we found out before we just threw a big stack of undead on there. But it does also enable us to recruit a pretty interesting little unit. Even if we only got, like, you know, 5 to 10 of these on, like, a little flank that we do some point buffing on, this could be pretty useful for us in an Elven matchup. Not like the end-all be-all, not like this is the secret weapon that is going to defeat all the elves, but it could fuck up some Elven plans, basically. So, pretty interesting. So moving on from there, we have some battles. So, we're just going to go down through these. We'll do the enemy battles aside afterwards. Really, there's only the Olmish one. So we'll do that last. But we will go ahead and just show this because this is just a ping. This is just Pelagia pinging Olympha, which is Spoopy, right? This is the Fire Snake, Fire Drake province. We also pinged that this turn, but really it was just us killing a Sino chieftain that we accidentally bought, right? So this is interesting. This is Pelagia showing clear interest in unclaimed throne provinces on the coast and gearing up towards potentially taking those unclaimed provinces, those unclaimed thrones. And that's bad news, right? That's absolutely bad news bears. So we need to start thinking about what the fuck we're going to do about this and how we're going to handle the 2 throne provinces that we're kind of adjacent to. Aside from that, we've got some battles against Agartha. Let's see how they go. We actually got attacked in Snowford, and this is that little Agarthan army that has been rolling around with the Earth Reader. Got some Sentinels, got some Shard Guard, got some Heavies, and we have been trying to catch this thing for the last couple turns, and this past turn we moved in. We now have 3 stacks of Sacreds that we're moving around, trying to triangulate in on this little roaming army. And sure enough, it rolled into it. Now, this is the smallest force that we have trying to take this on, but I think we have a pretty good chance because the Agarthans really don't have anything to defend against what we're using, right? Like, they don't have any shock resistance, right? I think we're gonna be able to do pretty well here. So we're just throwing up a Divine Blessing. We're on hold and attack like we should be. This Earth Reader has buffed himself and now has blessed a little bit. And just to double check their bless, it is Blood Bond, Reconstruction, Natural Protection. Now, this is somewhat dangerous because it does make these Sentinels very, very, very high protection. But again, no shock resistance, right? So, Thunder Weapons is armor negating, right? Like, not armor piercing, if I'm remembering correctly. Meaning that we would be able to stun these guys pretty heftily. Regardless, though, we alpha that Earth Reader, meaning that everything here is going to rout, right? I would assume. Yeah, there we go. So it took a turn for everything to rout. And now that everything's routed, they might have high protection, high HP, but they have such abysmal stats that we should be able to kill them. And you can see a lot of them are just getting stunned up, you know? And plinked down, and due to things like Twist Fate, etc., we're not taking that much damage. Our Sun Guard can kind of chop through the protection. But you're seeing it's mostly a lot of like little 1s and 2s and 3s and shit like that. So. Pretty good, pretty good. That ends with 25 of those units dying. A couple of the heavies get away. All of the sentinels die. One of the shard guard rout. We lose 1 condor, 5 Hatan Runa, and 1 sun guard. Unfortunate to lose the sun guard, but not bad overall. Honestly, like we take that type of trade any day of the week. So pretty good. And then we attacked Instantania. And this is our biggest force, and this is just against PD. 1 PD at that, so this is going to be nothing. Oh, did you almost fall? Oh, what'd you break? Oh, are you okay? Sorry, boo-boo. Kyrian Ramen, you can't be trusted with hot things. Oh. Oh, no. And then we also attacked in Ironwood Forest. And this is with Pachacuti and his Earth Elemental. Again, just 1 PD. Nothing doing. So yeah, okay. We have a result this turn versus Indies. Just 1 ping, right? And then versus Agartha, 3 wins and 0 losses. So that's pretty nice. It's been several turns since we had just a pure, like, victory turn against Agartha. But this is basically because Agartha is running out of stuff. And now we're going to watch a battle in Agartha, question mark? Yep, it's in Agartha. Okay, so Olm has actually, attacked... broken the fortifications and is now attacking in. And we've seen this army. We have a pretty good understanding of what is going on. He's got a very long line of black plate infantry of various kinds, guardians, right? He's got a bunch of sappers, a bunch of crossbowmen. He's got a bunch of mages here, mostly master smiths, right? Couple of these Golden Order adepts, right? And then he's also got in the back a couple of these Black Lords with various items. Smashers, right? Great Swords of Sharpness, etc. And he has these very specifically, 1, because of the Sentinels, but 2, because of this guy, right? Like, ooh, it's a golden pillar. It's a golden pillar with 37 freaking protection. So obviously this thing is a little bit annoying. And very difficult for a lot of people to kill, right? Very high magic resistance, ridiculously high protection, with nothing else going on, right? Like, can absolutely make this higher. But the smashers are going to fuck this up, right? Like, smashers do an additional 20 armor negating shatter effect on inanimate objects, and even just period, right? Like, smashers hit kind of freaking hard, right? The only thing being is I don't know if it says this or not. I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I think smasher damage. Someone double check me, cause this is just from my own experiences. I think smasher damage doesn't work against regular units, and that's why it's so high, right? Because plus 16, that's higher than a lot of two-handed weapons with additional damage. That's kind of like a crazy amount of damage for a one-hander. And I think the reason why it's so high is that it says here that the shatter only damages inanimate beings, but I also think the smasher itself is only really useful against inanimate beings. I don't know. I'm probably wrong, but someone tell me if I'm wrong, because otherwise, right, like this is I guess it is a 10 gem item, but like this is crazy effective if you can just have a 30 damage hit for a one-hander. Probably you can have a 30 damage hit. I don't even know how you would. Well, I mean, they have this coded to where it only works against inanimates. The reason why I bring it up is because I have used smashers before just as general gear, right? Like having picked up a smasher or gotten in an event or something like that and been like, here, I'm gonna throw this on this person. And every time I do it, it always ends up as if that smasher never does anything, right? So I have a suspicion there, but I have not confirmed it in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Let's watch this. Agartha does not have much here. He doesn't have much left. He has a couple of golem crafters back here. He's got a couple of great olms. He's got a earth reader or two. I don't think it matters. This is just way too small of a force to be able to defend against what Olm has brought to the table. Got a bunch of Legions of Steel coming out. We have anti-magic from the Olmish line. That's pretty good. Pretty important. We got flaming arrows coming out. Interesting. Oh, and we've got a couple of bows of war, it looks like. Back here. Maybe? Maybe not. Yeah, we definitely do. Couple of bows of war back here. From these bear tribe shamans. And he's got decay weapons and increased precision. My god, words. Precision. Slow down. So that's pretty interesting. Does he also have... He has air shield. My god, Olm's... Ooh, Olm's research. Olm has real research. Some Blade Wind coming out. Fair amount of Blade Wind, actually. Blade Wind just isn't good against Olm, though, generally speaking. It'll, actually, I said that, it'll tear up these archers in the back, but it doesn't do that much against the Black Plate infantry, right? No. A couple of these Black Lords back here. Chopped up. He's getting pinged, getting pinged, getting pinged. Flying shards. 33 damage hit. Yeah, things going down. This is very nice. Very nicely done from Olm. How were his losses? He lost one of his Adepts of the Golden Order. That is really unfortunate. He lost 2 of his Black Lords, easily replaceable. 1 Mastersmith, that's fine. 1 Black Plate Infantry, 7 Crossbows, 1 Guardian, and 1 Sapper. Ridiculously doable losses from Olm's side, and obviously complete annihilation from the Agarthan side. Which is really unfortunate. what happened to that? I'm assuming Blade Wind got one. Hmm. Doesn't look like. Well, he does have air shield on him. Astral healing. Those two are moving forward. Oh, I wonder if he gets himself. Oh, nope, he just got right there. Flying shards in the face. Yep, that was it. Unfortunate. I don't know that I would have. You know, I mean, these are Astral 3 mages, right? Like, they have access to things like Mind Burn and shit like that, right? Like, they don't really have a need to move forward unless there's some big fire spell that Ohm was like, maybe I will need this to take down that pillar. But yeah, I kind of feel like these guys would have been safer just standing back and doing like Mind Burn and shit like that, which they did in like the previous engagement. So unfortunate. The point I'm trying to make is it's just unfortunate to lose one of these. Not a huge loss, but unfortunate. I say that actually. Which one did he lose? He lost. I think it was this one. So yeah, just a Star Shine and a Flame in the Jar. Not a big deal. Okay. Anyways. That's a cool battle from Agartha. Let's move on. What do we have? We've got some events this turn. We've got an omen was seen that spoke of the decline of Odysseus, guardian of the Tablets of Destiny. We've lost Dominion in Miratrand. In Bara, though, a priest of Odysseus, the Evening Star, has been preaching and warning people of the end of the world. People are frightened and come to the temples to seek comfort. Faith is increased, and much wealth has been donated to the temple. Nice. So we got some gold, some positive dominion, and some unrest. And then people have raised a temple in honor of Odysseus in Toledo. So, events for the turn. We got I'm gonna add this to the events as well because it just makes the most sense to me. We got Mama Pacha, the wingless Koya. Very cool. We'll go over this more in just a second. So events for the turn, we got 1 negative event and 3 positive events. And that was we got Mirror Trend Dominion -3. We got Gold plus 252. We had Bara's Dominion change by +1. Bara's Unrest change by +9. We got a Temple in Toledo. And then we got Mama Pacha. So very, very cool. And yeah, let's go have a look at Mama Pacha because we're basically done here. Mama Pacha is Nazca only has unique heroes. They do not have any multi-heroes, which is unfortunate because I would love some multi-heroes. But Mama Pacha is one of the 4. And she's interesting. She's very, very interesting. She is wingless, right? She is technically a human, right? Oh, no, she's not. She's not technically a human. She was just born wingless. So she should be disfavored, right? She should not have any like real importance or anything like that, but she is super duper awesome and basically speaks as the voice of the Earth Mother. So she slaps. The big deal for her is the fact that she does have very high nature magic, which we don't have access to really except for on our god, meaning that she can help us break into higher nature opportunities, which is really cool. The other really cool thing is that she has healer too, right? So we have no access to healer in our nation. Healer is a very rare trait across the game, period. Having healer too is pretty dope because she can heal 2 afflictions per turn. which is nice, because that means that we can kind of cycle in individuals to try to be healed by her if we need to. Pretty easy peasy. Very, very cool. What is happening? We've got some interesting moves this turn. So let's talk about them immediately. The most interesting thing is that Agartha's power is broken, obviously, right? They have lost their capital, but they still have one army in the field. It's not an especially big army, but it is an army that could be annoying if we just let it stomp around. So Ulm and I have done some talking, and we are going to try to we're going to try to make sure that Agartha is dead. Well, not completely dead. We are trying to hit every single Agarthan province and any province that this Agarthan army could move to this turn aside from this pond. We actually were trying to see if we could get to this pond this turn, but we couldn't, so Ulm's just going to pick it up later. But what that means is we are actually attacking Ulmish land this turn because Ulm doesn't have the forces to deal with this army in these locations and also hit all of these other spots, right? So Ulm is actually going to be hitting Caves of Mira, Wolvermori, and Wolven Plain, as well as, I believe, Range of Light, because I think he's lost this currently. I'm not 100% sure. And we are going to be hitting Trandus and Rim Mountains. I think Ulm is also defending Star Peaks, because I believe the army is here in Rim Mountains, and it was sieging this fort, and so we're basically going to be hitting all of these little spots to try to help Ulm snuff out Agartha this turn. In order to do that, though, we've had to make a couple of, concessions. The army here in Snowford is close enough to just hit Rim Mountains, but it is not big enough to safely defeat what is in Rim Mountains. So we have to reinforce it with something, right? And the only thing that we could really reinforce it with was either the force here in Centania, right, or the force here in Ironwood Forest. The thing is, the force here in Ironwood Forest could make it to Trandus, but in making it to Trandus, I don't think this force was going to be enough to deal, potentially on its own. Whereas I do think that the force in Centania is enough to potentially beat this Agarthan army on its own. So what we're doing is we're having to leave behind our Hatan Runa and our Sun Guard in Ironwood Forest, and just fly with Pachacuti and the Condors, because the Condors have such high map move, and so does Pachacuti, right? Into Rim Mountains to reinforce this army. So we're going to have an army of 60 plus 54, so a little over 100, and then also an army of a little over 100. The big deal is that the army that's kind of stomping around isn't super big, but it's close to, I think 70 or so. And a good, 30 of it is Great Olms. So that's the issue. We have to have enough that's going to go up in the air that we can kill, that's not going to get paralyzed, right? So, one of the issues that we have with Condors is Condors have really shitty magic resistance. They do have high HP, though, so they are going to be kind of magnets for the Mind Blasts from the Great Olms, but as soon as they get hit by one, they're going to get paralyzed. So we have to have enough Condors for the volleys that get paralyzed to not be enough, right? What goes up in the air, right, needs to be enough to destroy whatever it lands on. So if we just sent this is 36 versus 30 Great Olms, we'd have 6 Condors land. So instead, we're sending all of this, so we'll have another 60 Condors land, or the same type of situation over here. And I think that's a much, much better chance for us. This is somewhat risky for us. We could lose a very big chunk of units here, and really from a game state or from a we're not gaining anything from this, right? Like, we are not gaining this territory. And in point of fact, Ulm and I have kind of been talking about who's going to get what. We're actually losing Snowford and not going to get Caves of Mira, right? So I think what's going to end up being is it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for Ulm. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, technically 6 for me, but, Pelagia already has this, and that's my problem, right? So, Ulm is taking the lion's share, having done the lion's share of the work, and we're not really getting anything out of doing this, except for reinforcing that alliance with Ulm, right? Like, showing Ulm we are willing to put in work to help things out. And then there's a different aside. And the other aside is that we're doing this because we want ourselves and Ulm to be free agents as quickly as possible. And the reason why we want ourselves and Ulms to be free agents as quickly as possible is because I have I'm convinced. I'm a minor voice in all of this, but we have a potentially we have gained allies against Vanheim, right? And so we need to be able to finish up this war with Agartha quickly so that we can settle in and actually do what we're trying to do. The allies that we have gained against Vanheim are Jotunheim, right? And potentially Nabah, although Nabah has a very, very narrow corridor with which to attack Vanheim. So really what we're looking for there is there's a throne province, I believe, this throne province that is on the border of Nabah, and it's like, you know what, if you would like to harry that, like just take that province from Vanheim and then maybe mess with them on that border, easy peasy stuff for you while we do all the rest of the work, right? So that's kind of the situation. That's why we are willing to take this risk for not really much benefit to us, because it reinforces our alliance with Ulm, and because I think we'll be okay, right? Like, if I really thought that we were going to lose a lot going into this, then I'd be like, no, fuck this. We're not doing that. But also because we want to finish the Agarthan conflict as quickly as possible so that we can prep for the Vanheim conflict. And we want to prep for the Vanheim conflict while Vanheim is still potentially not done with Ashdod. Preferably, right? Like, the perfect world situation would be that we keep this all hush-hush until the turn after Vanheim attacks Ashdod, and Ashdod either survives, right? Like wins out against the Vanheim forces, or dies but inflicts, serious harm to the Vanheim forces in the Ashdod area, right? Whether we're lucky enough to actually have that happen or not is, we'll see when we get there. So that's kind of like the board state. That's kind of what's going on. The next move is really, and honestly for us it was a very simple choice, right? Like, if Ulm was going to come at us, then we were going to be fighting Ulm. Ulm is not doing that. Ulm seems like a very stable ally and is super in for working with us. We can't really do anything against Pelagia right now, and that literally only leaves Vanheim. So, got to figure out what to do against Vanheim and go from there. And that's the plan. So, let's move on to more mechanical stuff for the turn. We have a bunch of recruitment this turn. I'm just going to go down the list, and then we're going to talk about why we're doing specific things. So, recruitment this turn. We have 2 Apu, 1 Huron Priest, 1 Inca, 1 Karaka, 1 Scout, 11 Alcac Runa Archers, 9 Cynocephalian Warriors, 6 Heavy Infantry, 4 Sun Guard, and 1 Centaur Chariot. So, let's talk a little bit about what we're getting and why we're getting it. The Apus are actually really easy. We just need more Apus over here for the whole Miratran thing. In point of fact, we might actually get a couple killed in Olitha, or Forgotten Woods, wherever, it doesn't really matter, in order to start making more, Hatenruna, but also we need people to fly those Hatenruna around, right? So that's a kind of situation. The Huron Priest, the Inca, those are just, we need more of the individuals that we are... Actually, we're not making an Inca this turn. We were making an Inca last turn, weren't we? Yes. Strike that from the board. So that's just continuing what we already were doing. And then from the Huron Priest side of things, we just need more casters. Huron Priests are better battle mages. We're getting close to that point to where we actually will have Horde of Skeletons. Huron Priests are good for Horde of Skeletons. We're going from there, right? Easy peasy stuff. What gets weird is when we start getting into the heavy infantry, into the Cynocephalian warriors, into the Alcac-Runa archers, into the Centaur chariot, right? And the goal there is power, right? Like power against small Vanheim raiding forces, and what can we do against actual Vanheim attacks. So the heavy infantry, I don't think are probably actually that good of an idea. What we're doing with those, for the most part, we're not planning on getting many. I just want something to be able to stick in a gate in Baral if it comes down to Pelagia attacking me there, right? Because we're going to have not a lot of focus going on down here while we're dealing with Van, right? So that's just defending our rear, basically, right? The Cynos we talked about, right? We kind of want to try to fill this out because I do think that these are pretty good, especially if you can get them buffed up. Things like regeneration, they have high HP, giving them defensive boosts. They can be very, very nice. And buffing them, right? Like you get Strength of Giants on these guys and they're hitting for 20 damage. They go Berserk and they're hitting for 22 damage. They can absolutely do some pretty decent work, right? So I think that they are potentially pretty useful. The interesting portions here are the Alcac-Runa archers, right, which we're doing in our capital and over here in Omia, and then the Centaur chariot. So we talked a little bit earlier about the Centaur chariot. I think the Centaur chariot is probably a red herring. I don't know if I'm going to commit to this, but again, if we get like 5 to 10 of these and we have them on a flank, and there's some big battle that we have to have against Vanheim, these could, with some point buffing, do some decent work, especially if Vanheim is not expecting them, right? But they're very, very pricey, and they're going to be very, very slow to get up. I don't know that we're going to have the time or the ability, really, to use these, right? Alcac-Runa archers, on the other hand, are very, very cheap. Or not the cheapest thing in the face of the planet, but cheap enough, and it's possible that Vanheim does not have Enchantment 6 yet, right? Vanheim might not feel like they have a reason to go Enchantment 6 yet, meaning that if we surprise them with a stack of 30 or 40 Alcac-Runa archers and throw flaming arrows up there, then we might actually have the ability to do some decent damage, right? Alcac-Runa archers don't hit very hard, but if you get them with Strength of Giants, they hit for about 10, another 8 from the flaming arrows, and that can actually do some work, right? Now, I do think Vanheim has fire resistance on their buff, so it might not be that useful. But honestly, I'm grasping at straws here. I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do against Vanheim. We are incredibly weak right now. If we get into serious altercations with Vanheim, we're probably gonna die. The hope, right, is that Ulm and Jotunheim will do the majority of the work, and we'll be able to just kind of like take a little bit of land, a couple fights here or there, maybe get Mighty Pillars back. That would be cool, right? And kind of like try to just continue to scale up into maybe our gem economy being the important side of things. So there's that. And that really kind of like wraps out the oddness in the recruitment. As far as Nazcan specific recruits, we got 38 Hatan Runa this turn and 2 more Supaya. So things are going well there. I say things are going well there. We're well and truly behind the curve. I think I talked about this around turn 30. Turn 30 is where, in my testing games with Nazca, turn 30 is really where you wanted to be, like, recruiting Royal Malquis every turn or every other turn if you can, or recruiting Koyas and then, like, twice mourning and killing them, right? So that you're consistently recruiting these powerful mages that are either recreate or creating Supayas for you, or being really brutal battle casters, or you're creating like these whites that are very, very useful for you in various different regions. But we may never get to the point to where we're actually recruiting several Royal Malquis or Koyas or anything like that. Like that, we might just never actually have that happen. We're that far behind. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Aside from Nazcan recruits and regular recruits, we have special recruits, 3 wolves this turn. Just reporting on that. I'm hoping eventually we'll get some other stuff to where we can add things into the special recruits, but for now, it is what it is. Wolves are free patrol chaff, right? 0 upkeep cost. They are not especially good at it. 0.7 isn't great, but when you get 3, what is that? 2.1 per turn for free when we are literally not doing anything else, or really can do anything else with our werewolf, might as well, right? This is the only thing that this individual can really do. We're gonna be able to patrol down Unrest hopefully in Mark, and actually make a little income here. We need to get over here and do it in Austin Glen as well. So there's that. Rituals this turn. We got Mama Pacha this turn, so we're just gonna immediately have her Haru specs. So we've got rituals for the turn, 2 Haru specs, and that's really it. Because we don't really have. I say we don't really have. I want to be doing things like Dark Knowledge, and in point of fact, I probably should have been doing Dark Knowledge this turn with this Huron Priest, but I forgot to, and I doubt we're going to be able to do it next turn because we're probably going to have more Lightless Lander next turn. So there's that. And then, yeah, the last thing, I just clicked on it. The last thing that we actually have this turn is Outgoing Trade. And that Outgoing Trade isn't really trade, I guess. We're sending 4 Owl Quills back to Arcosfale, but this is the culmination of that trade. When we originally made our trade deal with Arco, like 15 plus turns ago, we were paying a premium for the Owl Quills, and we were doing it because it was like, we're gonna die. I'm trying to get research so I can hurt someone on my way out. If you do this for us, I will send these Owl Quills back to you before we die. And then we didn't die. So Arco has been very generous in the last several turns. But a while back, we basically said, when I came to the realization of, I might not die soon, Arco and I hashed it out, and we were like, okay, well, you can hold on to the Owl Quills until turn 35 and send it back. So this has been really nice for us. We've gotten probably about 360 or so research out of these Owl Quills over the 15 or so turns that we have used them. That is more than a full single turn of research for us now. That has been a very large chunk of research for us for quite some time. And actually, this brings us to the last thing that I really wanted to talk about. This isn't something that goes up on the board, but the last thing I kind of want to talk about is now knowing, right, that our next plan is an engagement with Vanheim. what are we doing, right? And this is what we're doing. We are heading up enchantment because I think that is really our only real option against Vanheim, with the idea of what can we do to potentially win a battle against Vanheim. Not like little raids or things like that, but an actual battle against Vanheim. Vanheim is very, very strong right now, far ahead of us. The only thing that I think we really do is we go up enchantment 6 and we do a rigor mortis play, right? We actually have the ability with Mama Pacha now to throw in relief, right? Without risking our god. Obviously, we could have just done it with our god. But we could throw out rigor mortis very easily, throw up relief, and try to just do a fatigue play against Vanheim. And that's really all, Enchantment 6 gets us rigor mortis, relief, arrow fend, so that we can flaming arrows, etc., etc., right? So we could even grip of winter if we wanted to, because a lot of our people have cold resistance. So there's a fair amount of interesting things that we can kind of do. Did I just pull that out of my ass? No. Our Condor Warriors have cold resistance. And because we're Kalian offshoot, right? So Kalians are, have inherent cold resistance. I don't know that it's enough to work against Grip of Winter, and it's not on our Condors, right? So probably not something that we want to do. But I think Enchantment 6 is the only real play that we have for that. The other thing potentially interesting, Enchantment 6 actually gets us quite a few things. But the other potentially interesting thing is we don't really have a good way. Our income is abysmal. And I didn't take growth because I'm a dum-dum. Just cause, whatever. So we're reliant on luck to try to earn us money, which is not a good strategy. So our income is pretty abysmal. We actually have a fair amount of Earth gems right now, and no one has any globals up, right? We have fully open global slots, so if we get to Enchantment 6, we could just toss up Riches from Beneath just to try to make some extra money. Now, Riches from Beneath works off of your resources, and we have, we have productivity, we have Sloth 3, so we have pretty low resources. But even with really low resources, we're still going to make money out of it that we wouldn't be making otherwise, right? And we're not talking about overcasting this by 300 so that we can have it up for the rest of forever because it's our in-game spell and it's going to make us be able to win. No, we're talking about the concept of if we huck 70 gems into it, maybe it gets us a decent economy for 20 turns so that we can try to get back into the game and go from there, right? So, don't know if that's actually going to be able to happen. The next several turns are going to be how and what do we gear up with to try to deal with Vanheim? What can we do to try to deal with Vanheim? I don't know that there's a good answer. I honestly think that if we fight Vanheim, if we bear the brunt of Vanheim's interest, Vanheim will wash over us without much issue. I legitimately think that. I think Vanheim is significantly... One, I think it's a bad matchup for us, period. But two, I think Vanheim is significantly far ahead of us. And that because of that, it takes the power imbalance into a crazy direction. So, and honestly, that's a logical thing to do. If you get 3v1'd, right? Especially at this point in the game, right? If you get 3v1'd in the very early part of the game, you can't normally do very much, right? But at this point in the game, if you are a strong player, right, and you have had a strong game like Vanheim has, there's plenty of things that you can do. Negotiation, targeting weaker enemies while you stave off the stronger enemies, right, to like kind of either knock people out of the war or just increase your resources, right? So I think that's the most obvious tactic for Vanheim. If it's me, Jotunheim, and Ulm against Vanheim, well, I think Jotunheim and Ulm are significantly stronger than me. If I was Vanheim, I would stave off those two as best I could while I threw almost everything else I had at Nazca, to kill Nazca quickly and take all their land, take all their resources, take all their gem sites, etc., etc. And that feeds your ability to then fight the 2v1. So we can't let that happen. We gotta figure out how the fuck do we prevent that from happening, right? So that's gonna be a big focus of the next probably 5 turns, because I think the goal is war with Vanheim around turn 40. Or, right, like, again, the other thing that we're watching is what happens with Vanheim versus Ashdod. Because if Vanheim attacks Ashdod and Ashdod clobbers them, right, then that's like an immediate go button, right? That's a, okay, jump, everyone go, right, type situation. So. Anyways, this has been a very long episode. I apologize. There's a lot of stuff going on, though. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.